Arc Raiders soared onto the gaming scene in a way few titles ever do. Within 2 weeks of its late October launch, it had already sold over 4 million copies and boasted 460,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. This week, Embark has proven that they're open to community feedback and want to give players what they want. They added a priority duo queue, prioritizing duos to play versus other duos, and they added some more items to the shop and nerfed the security lockers. While Arc Raiders feels like a near-perfect game, these changes prove that they're aware of what can be done to make it even better. In this video, I'll discuss more ways to refine and build upon the experience by addressing community suggestions for the skill tree, the quest system, player trading, and finally the vendor system. So sit back and hear me out, because I think these are some welcome changes that could give the game an even brighter future, and Embark is on fire right now with some healthy changes, and maybe some of these can happen next. This video was initially going to have a large segment discussing the need for duo queue, and how playing versus other trios as a duo is an absolute uphill battle, and feels really bad when you lose a fight simply because you got outnumbered. However, Embark has since announced the introduction of a duo priority queue, and this just demonstrates that the game is incredible but has room for improvement. Unfortunately, Embark is listening to feedback and want to give players what they want, which is exactly why I felt the need to make this video and highlight more areas that I feel can be improved, whether it be out of personal experience playing the game or community posts highlighting the same suggestions. And the first major community suggestion that I really agree with is the introduction of a player-driven economy, essentially an in-game marketplace or flea market for trading items with other players. As it stands right now, the game has no auction house or global exchange, and you're forced to sell items of whatever rarity at a set price for credits. Many feel this is a missed opportunity because in other popular extraction shooters like Escape from Tarkov, player market dramatically changed the game, for better and worse. Supporters of the idea in Arc Raiders argue that the marketplace would make loot far more meaningful. Rather than vendors selling everything at a fixed price, rare items would find their value based on supply and demand. It drives the price of valuable loot multiple times higher than any NPC vendor would ever pay. This in turn makes combat and looting more exciting. If you're lucky enough to find an important blueprint or a rare crafting material like motors or rusted gears, knowing that other players would pay a fortune for it gives you a huge incentive to extract safely, and this brings a level of excitement to certain items even after you use them to upgrade your workbenches. I got so excited when I found my first couple of rusted gears, knowing that I needed them for my workbench, but now I find them and I often don't even loot them as they hold no value or use to me anymore. Rare loot needs to stay valuable even after you personally outgrow it. On another note, a dynamic economy rewards game knowledge. What's valuable today might change next week when crafts or metas emerge and players progress their hideout and need new workbench materials. Savvy traders could profit by knowing which junk scrap might become the next hot commodity. All this adds a strategic layer of game knowledge beyond just raw aim skill and being good at PvP. I believe this is something many extraction fans love and what makes the genre so enticing. In a player-driven economy, the economy would naturally balance itself via supply and demand. This would give credits much more use than they currently have. This would allow players who excel at looting to barter for gear they actually need. Yes, Tarkov has gotten to a point where nobody actually farms bosses to obtain a red rebel. They just do loot runs till they can afford to buy it, and this has the community divided. But as it currently stands, there's some very overpowered and rare blueprints in Arc Raiders. For example, the different types of tier 3 augments. Obtaining these is very hard, and considering there's a planned wipe every 8 weeks, the grind to get them might be a bit too much right now. Yes, I know the wipe is optional, but let's be honest, the die-hard Arc Raider fans will most likely be participating in the wipe anyway, as wipes are a natural mechanic in extraction shooters, and having a feeling of a fresh account to grind on feels great. Embark has proven on different levels that they're capable of reinventing and improving on the wheel in ways we couldn't even imagine, so I'm not asking for a Tarkov flea market copy-paste, but rather an Embark-style player economy that gives loot more meaning and credits more value. On the topic of giving credits more value, and if a full-blown auction house or player economy is off the table, players at least want improvements to the PvE economy we already have, namely the vendors and the in-game currency. Right now, the traders in town sell a limited selection of goods, like basic supplies or tier 1 gear, and meds or very limited uncommon level items like 3 anvils per reset, with some items gated behind levels or barter trades. The idea with Celeste trading common materials for seeds, or Lance letting you swap a free loadout augment for better tier 1 augments is a great idea, and I feel like this can be expanded on. By mid-game, money becomes almost pointless, and once you've bought a few guns and upgraded your stash, credits start piling up with nothing exciting to spend them on. Credits ironically have no credit. After a point, you only use them to buy basic meds or ammo, since rare upgrades come from looting, and the materials you use to craft good gear isn't available from traders. Whether it be limited supply like magnets from Celeste or other materials, being able to buy a limited amount of useful materials that you need often, for example springs, gives credit more value. As it stands right now, there's simply not enough items available from traders. Two solutions that the community suggested are expanded barter trades and ultra pricey purchases. For example, more barter options could be added where you trade excess rare loot for high-tier gear on upgrades. If we can't have a player-driven economy where we get to sell rare materials for what they're worth, it might be really good to be able to barter trade these items for good gear instead. Finding a rusted gear in raid and knowing that you can trade this for a level 4 gun back in town or a level 3 augment will give rare loot that sense of value again even after you've outgrown them. In a similar vein, vendors could stock a few luxury items at extremely high prices as long-term goals. Players floated ideas like unique blueprints or cosmetics for 1 million credits, truly expensive rewards that could take a lot of saving, finally giving meaning to amassing a fortune. Even something like the Raider Hatch key that currently costs 9,000 could have higher tier equivalents like keys to special areas that cost far more, functioning as money sinks. Community just wants credits to matter. Even purely in-game, the law could support a black market trader, who appears as part of an event and sells top-tier guns and rare schematics at hefty prices over weekends, giving you the opportunity to farm in advance and buy when he appears. The key point is that Arc Raiders currently needs a better money economy balance. Right now, cash is easy to get and hard to spend in meaningful ways. By introducing more valuable things to buy or trade for, the thrill of looting expensive items would return, and late game would have additional progression loops. Whether through a player-driven flea market or beefed-up NPC traders, the community agrees that the value of loot and currency should stay high throughout the game's lifespan, not just early on. Quests at the moment are intended to provide direction and lore, but players feel this aspect of the game needs fixing in terms of both difficulty and rewards. As it stands right now, most quests are straightforward PvE tasks. Go here, interact with us, fetch that, leave, which while occasionally time-consuming doesn't pose much challenge. Many quests can be completed by loading in with a free loadout, avoiding fights and sprinting to the objective then extracting. There are very few quests that require engaging with the core combat mechanics like defeating tough Arc enemies or eliminating X amount of raiders. So it's possible to bypass the risk that makes extraction shooters so exciting. The community would love to see quests that force us to actually fight. For instance, a mission to eliminate a certain number of other players in a specific location like the research and admin building on Dam Battlegrounds would make for a fun and challenging quest. Objectives like these would naturally push players to bring better gear and test their combat skills, rather than just speedrunning raids with cheap kits. Quests and other extraction shooters like Escape from Tarkov often require getting kills with particular weapons on particular maps, and Arc Raiders could take a page from that book to make questing more intense. Questing should be a valid way to play the game, not only for story, but as a challenging PvE/PvP experience with proper progression and rewards, not just ticking off objectives with no real feeling of progression. Players also feel that quest rewards are underwhelming at the moment. Aside from some early game supplies and keys and one standout late game reward, there's little incentive to complete all the missions. An extremely important quest reward that you can get by completing all the quests is the Hullcracker Blueprint. However, all the quests leading up to it don't really feel worthwhile. Unlike many other games, Arc Raiders quests currently don't even give any experience to your character, so your level progress isn't helped by doing missions. This combination of meager loot and no XP makes quests feel divorced from the progression loop. As a result, many players admit they started ignoring quests. The community's message to the devs is that questing needs to be made worthwhile. They propose tangible rewards at milestone quests, for example guaranteed blueprints for coveted guns or gear when you finish a quest chain. This could mean, for instance, an anvil weapon blueprint granted midway through the campaign, or one of the new items in Season 1 being locked behind completing a certain trader's storyline. Others suggest tying quests to the vendor system. Perhaps completing quests for a specific trader unlocks better stock or special barter trades from that NPC. Players want quests to evolve from forgettable side errands into meaningful progression pillars. If early quests yielded something exciting, say a top tier mod or jumpstart a workbench upgrade, you'd feel you need to do the quest, rather than skipping them. I don't think we need ultra grindy, tedious quests, but currently quests are too easy and give too little. Community is confident a middle ground can be found between boring and unrewarding and extremely grindy and worthwhile. Simply making quests a little bit harder and a lot more rewarding, and you'll have a player base actively chasing mission goals each raid for the awesome payoffs and potential permanent unlocks and upgrades. One area of the game that can really easily be improved on is the skill tree. Players want more transparency and user-friendliness in the skill system. Right now, skill descriptions are extremely vague. They'll say increases maximum carrying capacity or improves stamina regen without telling you by how much. This has led to calls for actual numeric values to be displayed. Clear stats, for example plus 10% stamina per point, would let players make informed choices instead of guessing each upgrade's impact. Additionally, respecking is a pain. Currently, the only way to reset your skill points is waiting for a periodic account prestige system or wipe known as expeditions. If there was an easier way to respec, experimenting with different builds wouldn't be as punishing. Especially if the game will have a meta shift in each big update, players won't feel comfortable experimenting with new changes if they don't know what the results will be compared to established strong points on the tree if they can't respec the points. I don't believe the solution of nerfing security lockers was the best approach. Simply making other trees stronger or have their own unique buffs and effects would be a better approach. Making you weigh whether or not you want OP loot via security lockers or being able to traverse the map significantly easier or faster via the yellow tree would feel like a much better player agency over their playstyle and choices that matter. A skill tree revamp that fosters diverse, viable builds and tells us exactly what each perk does would go a long way. Players have also been discussing Arc Raiders' approach to raid timing and late joins. Unlike some extraction games that start all players all together, Arc Raiders will continue to add new players into a match that's already in progress to keep the world feeling populated. In theory, this prevents people from looting everything and leaving, making the map feel empty and dead. In practice, however, many feel the current implementation is problematic, especially for highly geared players. It's not uncommon to gear up for a raid with your best kit only to load in and find 10 to 15 minutes of the raid timer already gone and the best loot you wanted to contest is already extracted. Essentially, you've been dropped into a world where other teams had a big head start. You're taking the same risks. There may be an enemy player around still looking for a fight, but with far fewer looting opportunities because much of the map's gear has already been looted and extracted. It's a bad feeling to spawn in and realize that all the key rooms have already been looted and half the arcs have been cleared, turning your high-risk, high-reward run into a high-risk, low-reward. Some players have suggested that free loadout should spawn into raids that have already had 5 to 10 minutes elapse, but personally I don't know if this is the solution. Unfortunately, however, I also don't have a better one, but it still feels like a point worth mentioning and for Mbok to find a solution. If you've made it this far into the video, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you hearing me out on what I have to say, even if it's mostly community suggestions. I doubt this video will get picked up by the algorithm or get lots of views, but in the off chance that this happens and this actually reaches Mbok, my friends and I are from South Africa, and we're forced to play on European servers. Other games like Dota, Counter-Strike, Tarkov, Call of Duty or Battlefield all have servers in our area, and I know that Southern African countries have a vibrant and growing gaming community. I would love to be able to play on local servers in a year or two, and if there are other people in other regions of the world with the same problem, I hope Mbok finds a way to help us out. Arc Raiders' community is deeply engaged and cares about the game's future. The suggestions pouring in aren't just complaints, they're coming from players who love the game and see its enormous potential for greater success. Each of these areas that we've covered addresses a way to keep Arc Raiders fun and fair in the long run. Adding a form of duo queue in matchmaking was a huge step in the right direction, and deepening progression systems and ensuring the reward loop stays satisfying, I hope is the next step for December's patch. If the Mbok Studios takes this feedback to heart, Arc Raiders could truly become, as some early reviewers put it, the best extraction shooter yet. For now, the game's launch has been strong with a crazy amount of potential for even more growth and improvement, and sustaining the game's success will depend on how Mbok evolve the experience post-launch. It will be exciting to watch in the coming weeks and months how the developers respond. Please feel free to drop a comment with your most wanted changes or how you feel about what I just said. Until next time.